Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. I'm welcoming from Phoenix, Arizona, Anthony Garone. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Anthony. It's great to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because it's going to be a creative one, right? Like you're an author, a musician, and a content entrepreneur. And you founded the long-running YouTube channel Make Weird Music. I love the name of that, Make Weird Music, which is now 12 years young, I'll say. And you have 44,000 subscribers, which is huge. I want to talk to you about the subscribe, how you got to that many subscribers as well. Was it organic? Was it like, being a content entrepreneur? I'm sure you've got some tips for the audience, but I know it takes a lot of work. And your Make Weird Music's YouTube channel is around spotlighting inventive artists worldwide. And I know that you interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people globally, which is to really create that content. And so I'm fascinated about that journey and what brought you to it. You also are a co-founder, but now you're the solo founder, or co-founder, but now you're solo on your own. No, I shouldn't say on your own. At Edify Content, and you're the CEO there as well, which is a technical content agency for developer-focused companies. You've also authored several books, including your latest, which is Mental Prison, which is a lighthearted take on a serious topic, is essentially what you've done here, which is really great. And it's all around escaping those limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, which we all have, whether we want to admit it or not, we all have them. And it's something that we need to, bring to the surface more and talk about it more. So I love that you've, brought that lightheartedness to it, because this minute you get serious about self-limiting beliefs, it's people shut down, right? And I'm sure you've got a point of view on that. Anthony, tell us about your journey, because you've got quite a few creative things in the mix here. So I'll hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about everything.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Essentially, I grew up just really wanting to be successful. We had a little bit of a hard upbringing. My parents did everything they could to raise a good family. But, life is expensive growing up in New York. And so we ended up just having some hardships here and there, and I just found it very frustrating. So my whole goal as a kid, I was very creative. I was writing music on a computer when I was very young. But also, as I grew older, I was exposed to more and more of real life. And my dad was a computer salesman for a little while, and I fell in love with computers when I was a kid. And I thought maybe computers are my way out and like to a successful career. And so I always had sort of the two things going on in my life. I was really into music and really into technology. And so when it came time for college, a friend of mine, his brother just ended up getting this incredible job in Silicon Valley right in 1999 as things were starting to take off. And I was already writing HTML as a freelancer for, I was 15, 16 years old, but writing websites for musicians and friends of mine. And so I just thought, I'm either going to become a world famous guitar player or I'm going to stick with computers and make money doing that. So my friend his brother got this amazing job in computers and it was making a ton of money. And I asked my friend, what did your brother study in college? And he said, computer science. So day one, when I got to Arizona State University, I just wrote computer science down. I didn't know what it was. I knew I loved computers and I didn't know that it was a programming degree. So I just walked into it blind and stuck with it. And in the middle of it, I got an email from a guitar player that I grew up just idolizing, and I had the opportunity to get to know through a family connection. It was a really wild story, but I know we have limited time. Essentially, I heard his song on the radio, was completely blown away. My life changed hearing that song. I bought the CD, and then my dad came home, heard me listening to it, and he said, "Oh, yeah, this guy played on our first album." And I was like, "What?" So the guy I heard on the radio was like a connection through my family, and then like in that day, I went from never caring about the guitar to I want to play guitar for the rest of my life. And it's a
Wow.
guitar player named Steve Vai. And so I got this email from Steve while I was in college. Let me know when you're ready for an internship. So I'm studying computer science. He brings me to his house to live in Hollywood and work in his studio, work on his guitars. And I got a lot of exposure to the music industry and realized there are so many great guitarists who are making no money. So I thought I'll stick with the computer stuff, but still do the music stuff on the side. And I graduated, built a tech career, but my music stuff never went anywhere. So, in a night of pure frustration in 2014, I just deleted all of my online presence and just said, I love writing. I love talking about music. So, I'm just going to start something. MakeWeirdMusic.com is available. I'll just do that. It was totally like a 10-minute decision. And I started a YouTube channel. I'd already had some success on YouTube when it started in 2007 or so. I had some guitar videos that got like 80 to 100,000 views, and I took them
Wow.
offline because I was scared of the popularity. So yeah, basically, I started Make Word Music. I was in a tech career and just kept working hard at both. And Make Word Music is totally organic,
Excuse.
no
Oh
paid
gosh.
tactics or anything.
Sorry. I'm
Bless
just
you.
the pollens are wild here at the moment. And it's just like
Yeah, I've been sneezing my head off. You can see the bags under my eyes. They're allergies.
it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I feel like my eyes just anyway, sorry. I just yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, so eventually, just over time, kept growing in the computer world and eventually started running like software teams and leading teams around the world at enterprises and then went into the sort of the startup world and was advising companies and kept doing the music thing on the side and nights on the weekends. And the channel got big enough I was able to build this studio in my backyard that you see. And I did a lot of it by hand. Me and my friends built pretty much the whole thing. And so my life is just a kind of real DIY story of coming from, you know, not not super happy kid and that plays into the mental prison story that we'll get into, but essentially trying to find my way out of feeling stressed about daily life and bills and all of that stuff and just trying to find success and wanting to raise a family and do good in the world. So all of that just I never stopped and I never felt like I was successful until one day it was like, you know what? Things are actually pretty good. I have a lot of subscribers on this channel. I'm making good money in technology. And then eventually I started my own company and that's doing pretty well. So it's just kind of like in my late 30s, things just started to actually go my way. And I don't credit myself. It's really, I'm a religious person. I just think God's grace was what made it happen. But I'm just lucky to be, at this point in my life. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, amazing. Gosh, so many questions there. Like, quite the story, right? Going like people you're
Mm.
meeting along the way. I always find that fascinating. Computer science. Then you realize there's a musician in connected to the family. Was he famous? Like, was he a famous guitarist?
I mean, he's been on the cover of every guitar magazine, and if you ask anyone who plays guitar if they know who Steve Vai is, I mean, he's a rock god, like there's like the A tier, everyone knows like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and Eddie Van Halen. And then there's this next tier of guys like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. They're not household names, but if you play guitar,
You
you
know
know
who
who
they
they
are.
are.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you
Yeah.
go get to move to Hollywood. That would have been fascinating in terms of doing an internship and like you say, just seeing what's actually going on here, and then to come into your
Yeah.
own and create, make weird music. You said you interviewed a heap of like hundreds of people around the world. Like how, like where did
Yeah.
that start? Because I didn't hear you mention about the interviewing and yeah, how you like. So what, like, talk us a little bit about make weird music and. Is it that you're interviewing
Yeah.
people who are making weird music, or was that just the title of it? And then you were like, what were you talking to people about around the world?
Yeah. So it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm interviewing people who make music that is kind of out of the box. It doesn't have to be weird to be unpleasant, or it doesn't have to be unpleasant to be weird. It's just there are people who make music for their own creative satisfaction, and there are people who make music to sell. And there's nothing wrong with either approach. I'm more interested in that authentic, artistic, creative expression. And so I just reached out to musicians that I found interesting, starting with a lot of my heroes. And they all agreed to interviews. So it was amazing. The channel grew just because someone who was interested, who was earnest, and reaching out to them and saying, I love your music. And nobody really talks about how to do something like this. They just kind of talk to you about what's the new album called and how many songs and when are you going on tour. I want to talk about the development of this level of creativity because I interview a lot of either virtuosic people or people who are just really either unusual or just creative thinkers that do things with music that you just don't find anywhere else. And so Make Weird Music has become sort of a niche home for what I call wayward musicians. And so has my home. Like artists will be on tour, and I try to help them save money by having them stay at my house. We give them food, we give them drink, so free place to stay. So it saves them money. And a lot of these musicians on the road, if you're helping them save just a couple $100, like that's a big deal to them. So
Yeah.
I put on shows locally and we try to help artists, and everything we do is free. There's no paid promotion, there's nothing like that. It's purely like my job to shine a light on these artists and their great work. And I get so much out of it. And now there's this global community that gets a lot out of it too.
It's incredible. It's so incredible. What's been your biggest, and we'll get to the book in a minute, but what's been your biggest, like, I mean, I've interviewed, I don't know, 260 plus people since February, and we were communicating via email on this, and I've got such great insights and such great, I guess, affirmations from it as well, but also just like, yeah, it's not about all the, glitz and glamour. It's around what actually is going on the inside out. Like if you think about it from from whether it's leadership or a music, kind of creator, if you like, it's like, where is this all coming from? You know what I mean? Like, where is the inspo coming from? All of that sort of thing. What's probably been the biggest insights? I mean, you've been doing it for 12 years, but like, is there any
Mhm.
consistent theme that comes out of when you're doing these interviews? Because I've noticed there's some big consistent themes that are coming up, no matter who I talk to, if that
Like
makes
what?
sense.
Yeah, like what? What have you heard?
Oh gosh, like, had a form of adversity, which then put me on my trajectory to finding my purpose and then being in the right career or the right business that I always thought about and dreamt about, but never pursued it. And then a lived experience or something happened that, took me there. That, the answers all come from within. They don't, like the more we seek externally, it's just not where they come from. That hustle is old world. It's not about hustling to kill yourself essentially in terms of from a burnout perspective. Gosh, the list goes on. There's so many different things like um, but there's big themes, and it's part of my white
Yeah.
paper or research piece that I'll share with everybody. But yeah, there's lots of different, like in terms of people's, values, if you like, or the tenacity, grit, have being soulful, conscious leadership. Like there's just tons of stuff that's coming up for me, but it's a consistent theme. And it's like the old world of, for example, business is null and void. We're in this new world order, and it looks very different to the previous world.
Yeah, the music industry is not that different. And to be a creative artist today, you really have to work for yourself. I mean, you're kind of an
Yeah,
entrepreneur if you're a
exactly.
musician now. And so there's a bunch of probably overlapping insights, but I just finished writing three manifestos on this. The first one is about writing or becoming a serious person with a capital S, like how to get serious about your life and realize you only have one shot. The second book is about how to develop mastery, and that's coming out on the market in the next few weeks. And then the third book is about accessing genius,
Oh yeah.
and that will be a private release. But the idea, um, a lot of this comes from these interviews and conversations with musicians and creatives around the world. Most people don't take credit for it. They'll say, it just came to me. The muse, it was the muse, or I got the download. The download in my brain, everything just came. It just happened. And I find that for creative work, that's just how it works. And so this third book that I wrote is called Die to Self, Find Joy, Access Genius. And so the process that I've sort of picked up on talking to so many creative people and successful business people is when you take yourself out of the equation, not only does your life get better when you stop focusing on yourself all the time, but you open yourself up, you become available and present to something greater. And then I like to say nobody is a genius, but genius moves through people. Like genius happens. And so that's why I say you can access genius. And so one of the things that I found in these interviews is it's people who are just digging. They're like archaeologists. They dig through the dirt and they find something, and it's like mathematics. Like the math always existed. It was just kind of like there for you to discover. We don't come up with equations and say, "Look how brilliant this is." We say, "This seems to model what happens in the world." And it's the same like archaeology is you're discovering things that were in the ground. And when it comes to music or creativity, it's kind of like that. You're just kind of playing through, improvising, going through ideas, painting different colors, and something just
Wait,
happens.
yeah.
And you just know it. And so that's genius working through you. And so, yes, there's adversity and there's tenacity and there's, I think, God-given skills and things that you can develop, but also it's just a matter of having the ears to hear and having the eyes to see and the availability and presence to some greater creative opportunity that you align with, and then it happens. And it's like you're in love. You
Well, you're in
absolutely are
flow.
captivated.
Yeah, I look at it that you're in
Right.
flow. You get into flow state. Like that's the other big thing. And what you're talking about here is that presence and present being present. Excuse me, and purpose. That's for me. There's a lot of intuition that pops in here as well. Like in terms of you're getting the downloads. It's all sits within,
Hmm.
right? This is where it all comes from. And the more we
Right.
actively listen, like you talk about, like this active listen versus like all the white noise, that's where like you say, the genius comes through, and you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, like Csikszentmihalyi's book, books on flow and creativity, he explores a lot of that. I try to look at it from more of a metaphysical approach because I think for artists or people who take even their business work, they look at it like a form of art or personal expression. I think there's a spiritual component that Csikszentmihalyi doesn't really get into. He'll talk about what is the personality type? I can't think of the word, but it was like telematic or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Autotelic, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The autotelic personality,
Yeah.
which is great, but I think there's a real component for musicians and creatives and people who are sort of they identify with what they do, and it's hard to separate the work from the artist in that sense, where there is and availability. It's not just that time becomes sort of wishy-washy and you can easily correct from mistakes and all of the things we know about the flow state, but there is sort of an obligation to something greater. And I think that's why musicians talk about the muse, or Robert Fripp, guitarist for King Crimson, says something like, music is so generous that it picks even the most unlikely characters to express itself in the world. And, I went to his guitar camp for a week in Mexico, and he has people teaching Tai Chi, and you do Tai Chi every day. And the idea is the perfect form of your body already exists, but you have to train yourself and develop the awareness to do that perfect form or shape or whatever it is. And with music, when you're performing it and exploring and looking for a new idea, you have to be ready. You have to be able to execute whatever comes to mind. And it is, you have to be willing. It's more than just like, I'm just a vessel to do this. It's like, I am ready and I want to and I love this. This is who I am. It's an
Yeah.
expression of my will, my desire, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's very
That's
cool.
a big topic though.
Yeah, that's a really big topic. And so are you continuing to interview now? Like, are you still doing many interviews or have you kind of
Oh
paired?
yeah, yeah. I'm never gonna stop. This isn't a project. This is an obligation. It's indebtedness to the greater good that music has provided in my life and musicians. They continue to inspire me and others. And if we don't look at what humanity really is and shine a light on the best parts of it, then all we become is just like a bunch of business people walking the earth.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's pivot. I want to go into your book, Mental Prisons, and it's a
Uh-huh.
lighthearted take on escaping those self-limiting beliefs. You've got great
Yeah.
cartoons through it. It's something that I'm going to read over the break. You put me on the spot pre-show
Hmm.
and said, "Have you had a chance to review the book?" And I'm like, "It's 100 plus pages to Anthony." So I love it,
Yes.
and so it's all about me being able to sit and be present while I'm reading it because I do love to absorb a book, and otherwise, you just like. So I will be definitely doing it over my holidays that are pending.
Great.
But tell us a bit about your book and you talked around the struggles you had growing up, and it sounds like there was quite a few self-limiting beliefs. And you said when you got to into your 30s, you were like, ah, everything's okay. And I've had those moments where it's just like you doubt yourself. You're constantly chasing this success wheel. You like, and I don't know about you, but for me, certainly it's been, okay, I've got here, but I need to go here now. And it's just this constant, it's like, when are you just going to sit and go, actually, I've done really well. Like, I've done
Hmm.
really well. Like, you should be just really happy. You should just be really grateful. Tell us about how you came into writing this book.
Yeah, so I had this sort of mental vision of myself holding on to prison bars and looking at life through prison bars. But the prison bars aren't attached to any sort of wall or a building. They're just free floating. I'm holding them. Like if I let go, they fall to the ground. And so in my mind, I had this sort of funny idea of a comic where there's a guy holding these prison bars and he's like, man, I hate being in prison all the time. And his friend says, but you're not in prison. Just look around you. And he does this. He just turns and holds the bars and he's like, still looks like I'm in prison to me. And so that's the first comic in the book that kind of kicks off the whole idea that most people have these self-limiting beliefs and nobody validated them. Nobody said, you know what? You're actually right. You are terrible at this. I really wish that you would just stop trying because you're so
Totally.
bad at it. But like, it's just this self-talk loop that we made up and then we believe for no apparent reason.
Well, other
And
people told us this and we believe it. Do you know what I mean? It's that
right.
outside in approach as well. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that my life is a little bit exceptional in these terms, but I've gotten to the point, I've worked so hard, like through Make Weird Music and my career. I've met some of the top people in the industries, world-class people. I got to work next to Alan Kay, who invented the laptop computer, the tablet, object-oriented programming. The guy's a genius. I got to work for a guy named Danny Hillis, and I lived at his house. And Danny invented supercomputing, the RAID arrays, for hard drives. He was pivotal in artificial intelligence research. Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize winning physicist, worked for Danny. Like I got to work with that guy and live with him and work with all of these people who work with him. I had dinner with Jeff Bezos at that time in my life. Like
Wow.
Danny helped Jeff build Amazon. So I was meeting all of these people, and over the course of my life, people like this would compliment me and like especially on the guitar stuff. And some of the top guitarists were complimenting me, and I had to realize like these people are either lying to me or they're lunatics and they don't see what I see, or, and this is the worst case scenario, they're right. And I actually am good at the guitar. And then I started thinking, well, if I've spent 10, 20,000 hours playing this instrument and I'm not good at it, what is the matter with me?
That's
How could I
mastery,
be so
right?
bad? Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so then I started applying that thinking to the rest of my life. Like, well, you've been using computers since you were 2 years old, and you've been programming since 1995 or so, and you are paid six figures to do this, and enterprises hire you to do all this complex work for them. Like, do you really stink? Do you think that you've fooled the world? Do you think that you've brainwashed people into, so I started looking at compliments and realities as just facts. Like, the sky is blue and I'm good at guitar. I don't have to say I'm the greatest at guitar or I'm better than this person or worse than that person. I just have to admit to myself the very basic truth that I'm good at something. And I'm smart enough to have applied myself for thousands of hours to a skill and to have developed it. And if you're not saying these kind of basic realities or truths to yourself, then you're just stuck in this prison, you know? And so I realized over time I was doing this pretty much everywhere in my life. And um, I actually I had this sort of religious experience, and I heard this voice. I was filming in Bosnia, because this guy who runs a record label, paid for me to fly out to Europe and film, because of my YouTube stuff. He wanted me to film the music festival he was putting on. So I'm filming all of these incredible musicians, top class, world class people. And this voice said to me, when will you stop ignoring, or when will you stop ignoring the mountain of evidence that you are a loser? And I was like, what? Or that you are not a loser. I can't believe I screwed it
You're
up.
not a
Sorry.
loser. Yeah,
I'm going to
no.
start over.
No, 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 I
Yes.
get it.
I
Yeah.
heard this voice. When will you stop ignoring the mountain of evidence that you're not a loser? And I was like, okay. So I'm holding this camera, walking backwards in Bosnia, filming these musicians interacting with each other. And then the voice just kept going about all of these successes in my life and blessings and all of this. And I was like, I have to change my life. I have to turn this around. Like, my belief system is so backwards. And really, life changed for me at that point. And the book just kind of flowed out of that. But I think back to the availability and the presence and all of this stuff, I think that there is a bigger spiritual component to all of this. And so, Mental Prisons is not a religious book, but it's the idea that, like, you are created to do good in the world. And if you don't believe that, there's a devil, whatever you call the devil. You can call it evil, you can call it negative energy, whatever. But in the book, there's the devil, and he feeds you turd sandwiches, and he helps you hold the bars. And the devil does all of these things that keep you in this state of disbelief. When the reality is, if you actually believed the good about yourself, what a better world it would be. And so, that's what really the theme of this book is. It's not a how-to book, because if there was a how-to that worked, we would all be healthy and happy and fit,
Yeah,
right?
totally. And
So it's
I
really
don't,
just,
yeah, sorry, you go.
it's my story of how I went through it. And then there's a bunch of interviews at the back of the book of other people who went through it themselves who are now very successful. So it's not just like one anecdote. It's many anecdotes from many different walks of life of people who have had very different stories. And I'm hoping that this book can inspire people to realize what they're doing, holding the bars, that they are in control of letting them go, and that you don't have to be pompous to believe you're actually good at things, and the things that you tell yourself are just silly lies.
Yeah, such a great story, and for me, the other thing that's coming up is, like the amygdala. Like you've got this, 100,000-year-old dinosaur or whatever you want to call it, or the lizard or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's just every day goes out of its way to make your day difficult. Like it's what it does. Like
Mm,
it's just that constant
mm,
talking at you. It's not talking at you in a healthy way. It's saying to you, you're not good enough. B, why are you in, like, how could you be interviewing Anthony? Because he's got
right.
24,000 subs or 44,000 subscribers, I should say. You've got what have I got? Like 80 subscribers. It's so funny because even bringing that up, right? Like I only started this podcast in February of this year. And, even people that
Right.
are like curious about being interviewed, some of them just say to me, give me your subscriber numbers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just, once upon a time, I would have been like really down on myself, going, there you go, you're shit, blah, excuse me, you know what I mean? Like, you're not good enough. But,
Mm.
I'm now like, I'm just proud. Like, I'm like, I've interviewed this many
Right.
people around the world. It takes time. So if
It
that's not,
does. I
if
was
that,
at I was at 80 for months,
yeah,
and now I'm at whatever,
yeah.
200 times that or whatever, but like
But my,
it's
but sorry, but just to finish
this is
my,
the book.
yeah. I know, I was going to say my
Oh, I
point.
just wanted you
Yeah,
go
no,
for it. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
no, that's okay. I was going to say my point is because it'll come back to mental prison and then we'll pull the book up. But the point I'm making here
Uh,
is that it's actually what you're talking about. Like the minute we have this ability just to, like here you are, you're over in Bosnia filming, and you're in flow, you're in this state, right? And it's almost like you've allowed yourself for for God to talk to you, or right, the universe to talk to you, and you're ready for it. And I think that's a really
mhm.
profound piece. So I really relate to the prison piece and just this, like, we allow it so often to happen. So now show us the book cover, but I just wanted to get that out because I think
Yeah.
it's really relatable and it's such a lived experience that everyone faces. Mm.
Well, yeah. And so this is the book cover. There's a ladder coming out of the covers, the head on the cover. It's a self-help book for nobody, and nobody's scratched out. It says entrepreneurs. Um, but yeah, I mean, when you say, well, I only have 80 subscribers and you have 44,000, that is just like, it's an unnecessary judgment. Like, we're not here to talk about
No.
subscribers. We're here to talk about, like, and it doesn't really matter. So I wanted to just show that, like, it's a very colorful book. Here's the comic that I told you about, the guy who turns around and says, "Oh, but it looks like a prison to me." Everything is very colorful. Um, there's a, there's a chapter on compliments because that's where it kind of started. There's a chapter on mind control, which is kind of this silly idea that you can brainwash people, And here's the devil. He just shows up and this guy's like, "I thought you didn't exist." And the devil's like, no, that's just good marketing. And so it's a very easy thing to read. There's even a chapter called Turd Sandwiches, and there is a turd sandwich from South Park here in the book. But we're always being fed turd sandwiches. And when we look at subscriber counts, that's a turd sandwich, right?
100%. No, I
Like,
wasn't comparing or judging myself. I was just using that as an analogy in terms of it's just ridiculous, right?
right.
Like it's ridiculous and it's
Yeah,
that outside feedback you get where once upon a time I would have taken it on board and now I'm just like, this is who I am. Like I'm really proud of myself and all my
right.
achievements,
Yeah,
like I really am.
yeah.
And I think the more we can
I
have,
interview people.
yeah, you go.
I'm sorry. I was just going to
No,
say I interview people who are world famous and I interview people you've never heard of
yeah,
because to me we're all on the same plane.
totally.
The people who are famous love some of the music that they see
Yeah,
from people they've never heard of, and
yeah,
that it's such a blessing to shine a light. Like I always say, the bigger the subscriber count, the bigger the spotlight we can shine on unknown artists.
100%.
And so if I've had a video that got 1.5 million views, this like interview, and then it had like lots of a halo effect where people were checking out all sorts of other stuff on the channel. So it's like if I bring on the famous people, it brings new viewers. And then they click around and they see other engaging content and they're like, oh, who is Ostrich von Nipple? And so then they'll watch that interview and then they'll look at the playlists that we put on Spotify and they'll listen to all sorts of strange new music. So I just think it's a win-win. If we play a positive sum game, then you get positive sum results.
Yeah, I
But if
love
you
that.
play a negative sum game with mental prisons, you get negative sum results and you think the world sucks and you think people hate you. And it's a drain, a toilet drain. So
Spiraling. It's a spiral. No,
yeah,
it's so right. And it's interesting, and I don't know if this has happened to you in your interviews as well, but like I seem to universe is working for me in mysterious ways. I call it the universe for me. And like yesterday I had someone on the pod and he was talking about self-love. And here we are talking about limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs. And the opposite for me to self-limiting beliefs is having that ability to love yourself and the self-love. Because the minute you change your perspective and change your view, you fall in love with yourself. And then, like it
right.
doesn't matter what, like success is different to everybody. So success might be very different. Your idea of success versus my idea of success could be so very different, right? But I think it's incredible that we are having more and more of these conversations that are required in society today, especially in the world we're living in. And rather than, I love your idea around the positive sum game versus the negative sum game. And you're right, we're here as a society to make a difference in the world. And it's for the better. It's
Hmm.
for the more positive, not for the negative. And we
Exactly.
have to unite and we have to unite to remove all the evil that is happening in the world because that's not part of this new world or new world paradigm. This is the new world paradigm
Right.
is exactly what you're talking about, exactly what I'm talking about, what you're doing, your book, your new books, Serious Mastery Genius. I'm sure I'm going to have a book at some point. I don't know what it's going to be called, but like so we've got to get we've got to, and by interviewing different people, we're sharing everyone's like stories, their lived experiences. So anyway,
Well, for
it really
me,
is
it's about
enlightening.
showing it shows what's possible.
Yeah,
And so when people in the book on mastery that's coming out, I say there are three qualities of a master: that you are exceptionally good, that you are prolific, and that you're frightening. And the idea of frightening is that you make other people go, how did they do that? And why haven't I done anything like that?
yeah, that's cool.
And it's kind of a terrifying thought when you've done so much good through yourself, like you're just in the effort to make the world better, you end up producing so much good that somebody else looks at you and goes, how did you do that? Like I've been alive longer than you and I haven't done a third of that. And I hear that kind of thing all the time. It's not about my ego. It's about showing people like life is so much bigger and there's so much more opportunity every single day for you. All you have to do is be available and present and work on a skill. And when you do that, it's like suddenly everyone says, I want that. That is the thing that I need in my life. And you get people listening to instrumental, music with Turkish bagpipes. You get people
Yeah,
reading white papers. You get people watching your YouTube videos. Like it's all the same thing, you
yeah,
know?
so true, so true. Anthony, a couple of minutes left. Well,
Yeah,
a couple more questions for you. We've covered a lot of ground. We haven't covered anything
yeah.
around edify content, but I guess maybe that's another conversation for next year because the attention economy, creator economy, it's going, it's like growing, and it's kind of like taking off even further than it already has. And I'd love your insights on that and what that looks like from a future perspective. And I know I haven't gone into edify content, but the question I do want to ask around that is in terms of entrepreneurs and founders, and knowing that you've been a co-founder and you edify content you're pursuing as on your own now. But what what do you see as the three key traits required in an entrepreneur slash CEO leader today and heading into the year ahead, the next year ahead?
I think it's the same three things we just talked about. You got to get serious about actually doing something with your life, and you have to master something and get really good. And then you have to allow that goodness to attract the best work you can possibly do. That people want to hire you or pay for your product or your service. It just becomes inevitable. Like, why would I want someone to meet me and go, why would I not hire this person? Like,
Yeah.
why would they not hire me? And I understand there's alignment, like you don't need someone like me or that does what I do. Totally get that. But if they're not going to hire me, I want them to go, I got to tell so and so about
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And so it's those are the three traits that are really central to the way that I live and the way that it's like a framework that I think is reproducible. It's hard, and that's a good thing. And so I think there's just a certain type of person. It's not everyone, but there's a certain type of person that is out there who wants to take their life more seriously. And they have to pick up a skill. They have to look at what resonates with them in the world. Like, what is a skill that they have, or a talent, or something like that, or a problem that they just can't stand. And they're going to take it seriously to try to solve it for the world. And they are going to get out there and make it happen. And when you get out there and make it happen, you can have execution issues, you can have bad marketing and all this
Yeah.
stuff. But like, if you truly make your life about this, you will inevitably get business. Even if they're your bad customers are your first customers, they are customers, and you can work through that, and learn and evolve and all that. But for an entrepreneur, if you're not serious after mastery and trying to allow, goodness to happen through you, what is the point? Just go get a job,
Yeah. I love it.
right?
Yeah, very cool. Thank you. And then last but not least, it's probably not a question, but what would be your final words of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience? You've shared a lot. You might just say, I've already said it, B, but is there anything else that you haven't shared that you would like to share? Any sort of music, creative inspo type words of wisdom?
Yeah, sure. So one of the ways that my channel grew was that I tackled a song that is thought to be impossible to play. I spent 22 years learning one piece of music on the guitar, and it is thought to be the hardest song ever written on guitar. There's maybe 15 to 30 people on earth who play this song because it's very challenging. And I just put up videos of myself practicing and learning this song and working my way through it. And you would think that would be the most boring content out there. And yet, it's received hundreds of thousands of views, this series that I've got on my site. And I wrote a 320-page book about it. And it sold hundreds of copies. It's $100 book, and people keep buying it. And I am sort of like, when people encounter this piece of music, they always tag me or send it to me or whatever it is. And I just think that like there's nothing too niche or esoteric in the world anymore. I was 16 years old and my dad said, "Well, you're playing all this hard music. Try this one, and when you can play it, then you can talk to me, right?" And I went from 16 to 38 and finally, made it happen. And I played it at a music festival in Spain last year. And I mean, it's incredible that people even care about this, right? And so nothing is too out there. I am a testimonial to you can run a successful YouTube channel about weird music. You can write a huge book about practicing a song and all of the work that goes into learning one thing. You can spend 22 years on one thing and you might think you're plateauing, you're never going to get anywhere. Why am I doing this with my life? And yet, doing this one song has completely changed my life. I have met the composer of the song. I studied with him. He invited me to his house. These are all very uncharacteristic things for him. He offered a quote from my book, and it has allowed me to build a global community just around this one song,
That's
which is
very cool.
totally crazy. So yeah, that's my thing. There's nothing too niche as long as you show you really are after it, that you're serious, you want to be a master, and that good can come from it.
Love it. And do you know what comes up for me? You're probably going to laugh, but it's Audrey Hepburn's Nothing's Impossible, Everything's Possible. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I always, when I'm having
Hmm.
my moments, Mum always reminds me about Audrey Hepburn's quote. And I know, but I do love her and I love that nothing's impossible, everything's possible. And that's what you're talking about here, whether, it's
Right.
staying true to it. So, Anthony, thank you. How do we where do we find how do we find out more about you? How do we find where do we find Make Weird Music? I mean, I've got all the details in
Oh,
my
you just
show notes.
yeah, just Google
Google.
my name, Google make weird music. You'll it I've completely saturated the other Anthony Garones, I feel bad for them because they'll never come up through the rankings.
I
So if
love
you look
it.
up my name, if you look up make weird music, will be the top results.
Thank you. Anthony, it's been a joy and a
Thank
real
you.
privilege talking to you. I'm going to check out, I'm going to get into your Make Weird Music because I love music. It's one of my, I don't really watch much TV. It's music for me. It's
Yeah.
that's something in the soul that gets me going. So thank you so much. Wishing you a wonderful end to the year. And I love the way you continuously shape and reshape and your mastery and, in life, in leadership, in business, and what you're doing from a society perspective. And yeah, buy the book, everybody. Get into mental prisons. And thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, B.
Take care.